Yeah, like streaming.
Our community.
Great.
That's how you're gonna do
That's it. And then,
I think there was something else that had to be done.
oh,
You know,
yeah,
like-
no, it's not bad. And then once you're done, just end, and I can do the stuff on YouTube too.
Okay.
That works for you? Cool.
Change it off, please.
You are welcome.
Okay. Hey, Jane. Hi. Okay. Yeah. I was working all afternoon, crawling around. Oh. Yeah.
The utilities director. I think we look at, from A. But, history. And it's kind of weird. Time when they didn't have a water line. And before they finished that last chunk of High Street. It was a water connection there. Trying to make it easier for them, so we're gonna make it. He's looking into.
Just find a name tag. I don't know if I have one. Okay. Oh, you do, Parks Board one.
Oh, Park for one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's,
You want?
I think that's the one that. Had the point. Hadn't come here for the park board.
Logan.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I know. I recognize you. I've been hiding for you. I was gonna have a hiding spot.
So did Kellner beat you on Saturday?
Oh, we were on the same team.
I don't know if you, oh, yeah, so you guys best ball. Never mind,
Yeah.
so you wouldn't be, you know.
We did all right. Did Annie help you with that?
It's a little complicated.
Yes. So nobody attending remotely today?
No, Corey's supposed to be here. Number 7 though is gonna have to be tabled. They're from Al today about that. So
That's the ag one.
Yeah,
Big building. Is on left. Awesome, yeah. So. No, that was the storage building. Yeah. Is he going to touch base with you for another time?
yeah. He just said he wasn't quite ready to do this months.
Okay.
Push it back.
We gotta wait until after this one. Everything's all submitted. That happened with blueprint and everything else.
And you didn't witness any holes in one on
No, didn't hear anyone screaming too loud. Okay, I haven't heard anyone screaming on that hole yet this year, but I'm not always home, so.
Okay.
Sometimes when you hear the screaming, you know they got either really close or got it in. I know Travis called for a long time, he's like, I'm down. Look at this, because it was less than a golf,
Oh, sure.
club away from the hole. He was golfing with the way too.
Clock is how it has spawned behind, so. Apple time says 4:59.
There's a problem.
Government clock.
It's a plug-in thing. I guess you need one of those on.
Government clock.
You need one of those that.
So it runs slow, is that what you're trying to say?
Which is why are we running that?
I'm using the Apple time. Apple. Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Neighborhood Planning Commission meeting, June 12th, 5 p.m. Please take the roll.
John Quinn,
Here.
Andy Shoemaker,
Here.
John Gable, here, Gene Briggs,
Here.
Roland Paulhammer,
Here.
and Brock Fleischer is absent, and Joseph Tillman is absent.
Okay.
Quorum is present.
We have a quorum. I'll make a motion to approve today's agenda.
Also move.
Second by Frings. Any discussion? We're going to not have item number 7. So is that going to be indefinitely? Is that going to be?
He's hoping just delay it a month.
Okay, I'll take a motion to table to July's meeting.
So move.
Second by, or moved by Gable. Second by Colmer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any other adjustments to the agenda? All right, all in favor of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item 3, citizen comments. Are there any citizen comments? Please, just. if you would.
Bill Linsmar, 1122 Valley Street. What I'd like to be able to do, I just have some questions regarding the agenda item 9, regarding proposed alternate. That's new from the last meeting to potential residential development. I don't know what that means. I've seen no site plan. I don't know how it adversely affects my property. Maybe it don't. I don't know. I would like to be able to be recognized to share in some discussion on item 9 when that comes up, so I can give some input, but I kind of understand what's going on a little bit. And I would probably be open to talk to Corey for a few minutes, maybe you could explain it to me. That may be answering my questions, if you'd be willing to do that, we go up in front to do it. That's really what I have, I'd like at least to recognize that when that portion comes up.
Anyone, informally, are you guys comfortable just allow him time during that? No need for a formal motion. That would be fine.
Okay.
Yep.
You got it.
Sure.
You think on how to get there anyway.
Yeah.
And then we'll do one copies.
He flowed off from up on Sherman Street, and I just am here to support my good neighbor Mike and his request that he's come before the commission today. I did this a few months ago when it was before the planning commission, and I'm still in favor of it going through, so. And if you think I can add something during the discussion, I'm willing to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Are there any other citizen comments? All right, item number 4, approve the minutes of the May 8th, 2023 meeting.
No, second.
Motion by Colomer, second by Shoemaker. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. 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 All right, minutes are approved. Number 5, discussion, excuse me, discussion with possible action, the certified survey map for current parcels 251, 1216, 2422, 071, and 069, located at 210 North German Street, corner Michael and Darlene Hilbert.
Mike Hilbert, 210 North Sherman. Already was before the planning commission. And I'm so in favor of my building request with on the contingent that I have these 2 lots combined. I have a survey, you probably have the paperwork, and I'm hoping I can start digging.
So I recall this coming before the planning commission before. Has anything changed?
It came before, it came before the plan commission previously to discuss the buildable area. This is just off of that recommendation, the previous meeting saying that he needed to combine the lots.
Okay.
So that's what this survey
Got
is
it.
doing.
Well, it's to combine the lot that actually on Washington Street to the lot that's on Sherman Street. In this diagram, that lot 28 and 30.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And they lot number.
So in terms of the size and location of the outbuilding, nothing has changed.
Nothing is-
Okay, it's just, okay.
Minus the overhangs.
Yeah, but we're looking at an overhang originally, I think it'll probably just not have that. Like a patio.
Okay.
Motion to approve the certified survey map combining lot 28 and 30.
Is that recommended to council for approval or?
That would be recommended to council.
Sure.
Yep. Motion by Colomer,
I'll second it.
second by Frings. Any further discussion? Would you please take the roll?
John Gwynn,
Aye.
Andy Shoemaker,
Aye.
John Gable,
Aye.
Gene Frings,
Aye.
Berlin Callhammer.
Aye. All right, motion is passed. Item number 6, discussion regarding a proposed storage development in the River Knoll Industrial Park.
Hi, everyone, my name is Cameron Butler. Did you guys get the materials that were sent over?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I was supposed to do it last meeting and unfortunately, wasn't able to make it, so got to this meeting, so that's a reference. So, for context, I own a company called Self Store. We offer commercial and mini storage to residents around central Wisconsin. So I'm actually located in Jackson, so about half an hour from here. We have facilities across Green Lake, Red Granite, developing in Oshkosh, Wisconsin Rapids, under contract to First Point in Toronto, so kind of all around like the central Wisconsin area. And what we're proposing today is hoping to get some feedback from the planning commission on what is a commercial storage development. So this is quite a bit different than what would be a traditional mini storage development, where you have something in, say, the size range of 10 by 10, 10 by 20, usually with a 9-foot door, 9 by 9 door. What we're proposing here is more tailored to a commercial customer. And so our units that we're contemplating here are in the ranges of 20 by 40 in size to 15 by 40 in size. And some of the amenities that differ from traditional mini storage is that these come with interior lights, interior outlets, electric overhead doors, a side access door that we would access, like your home through, in addition to the 14 by 14 foot overhead door. So really geared towards a commercial customer. And so these aren't condos in the sense that they're sold to an investor, they're rented on a month-to-month basis. Some of the tenants that we currently have, which I suspect would be similar tenants in Mayville, are general contractors. So we have a lot of plumbers, electricians, landscapers, tree service providers, things like that. I have one guy who runs a party bus rental and keeps a bunch of buses in our units. We have e-commerce business, so one person runs a sticker company out of one of our units actually, and then we just manufacture all sorts of stickers to send them out. So drop shipping businesses, things like that. Generally speaking, the primary tenants are, like I said, general contractors, and then you get some of the e-commerce folks or people that are holding inventory, things like that. But one other customer just comes to mind, we have somebody that actually owns a sign company, and so he manufactures signs for the local community and stores all of his like vinyl signs and things like that in our facility and this one. So that's who the tenants are. Like I said, it is a little bit different than traditional mini storage, in that it's kind of tailored to the local businesses here. Helps them by providing additional storage space for their inventory equipment, things like that, help them take on more jobs in the community, those types of things. Yeah, so what I'm largely hoping to get some feedback on is the interest from the planning commission in general. And then B, I've been having conversations with Nick over what would be, I guess, the last 2 months now on potential lots that could likely work. So we've gone through the River Knoll Industrial Park and like kind of hand selected lots that we think would be suitable. In terms of what we're thinking, we generally phase these out over 2 phases. So phase 1 is what I would call like the cold storage. So that has all the electrical components that I talked about, but does not have heat. What would be contemplated in phase 2 of our developments, depending on the feedback that we get from our tenants, based on whether it's something that they're interested, right? It's hard to have those conversations with someone that's very serious until they're actually in one of our units, but then we get a good sense if they're interested in the heat as well. And then with phase 2, would ideally have either electric or gas heat as well, depending on utility hookups. So I've had conversations with a lot of local business owners in Mayville who have specifically expressed interest in something like this. And so after having those conversations with Nick, I'm just hoping to get some feedback on, what the potential lots could look like. And I've kind of picked a few out on what would be page 3 that we thought could work. And again, not looking to formally sign up for a lot or anything like that, largely just looking for general feedback so that way I can go work with our engineer and start overlaying buildings and come back for a second meeting to say, hey, this is what our engineer thinks, based on what the potential commission recommendation could be for those lots. So I know there was a lot. Happy to obviously answer any questions. I have some pictures of some of our other developments and stuff like that too on page will be 5. And then the last page as well.
So be a few that work out of these buildings, some of them,
So they have,
bathrooms in?
they do not. So phase 2, those would be the ones that would have like the heater and water. First phase would not. You do have a little bit of, and it depends on zoning ordinances too, right? So in other facilities where we've built, you're allowed to work within them. So we have guys that will work on like trucks and stuff. They'll have like the big enough electric gloves to plug in and run like more heavy machinery. Not putting in the things like that. So you do a little bit of like minor work that I would say is done in the unit, but its primary purpose is like inventory and equipment storage.
Minor work that you're referring to, is this for their own equipment
Yes.
or, and not,
Correct.
hire out to repair other people's?
Correct, generally their own equipment.
How many units are you talking about?
Yeah, so. Part of it's a little bit dependent on the lot, right, because you can only fit. Unlike a traditional like mini storage facility where you don't need as much acreage, with something like this, with bigger units, you generally need a bigger driveway to accommodate some bigger equipment, right? So you might need, say, a 70-foot driveway, 75-foot driveway in between the buildings, such that someone could park a bigger 35, 40 piece or piece of equipment in that facility. So each unit or each building, the way we generally construct them is 12,000 square feet per building. And then within that 12,000 square foot building would be comprised of, say, it depends on the exact mix of units, like if you had some 12 by 40s in there versus 15 by 40 versus 20 by 40, but somewhere between 15 and 19 units is generally what would be included in like that one building. And depending on the lot, we were looking at doing 2 buildings to start, so it would be 2 12,000 square foot buildings. And I've included some like preliminary thoughts on unit mix and stuff under item 7 on page 2 if you want to read through it specifically, but it's kind of broken out over 2 phases. And again, it's kind of lot dependent, right? Depending on the acres and everything.
Now, would this be storage for campers, motorhomes, that sort of thing as well?
Right, so I did include that in here because it's inevitable that you are going to get people that want to store in their or a boat, or maybe they want to store their RV in the boat and their snowmobiles and the jet skis. We have a lot of that too in some of the units, just someone that doesn't want to have, 5 different mini storage units to store all that stuff. Maybe they want to store it in like one location. So you do get some of that. I would say it's not as like, I would say the mix of our commercial tenants to the RV camper type people is probably 75% commercial, 25% RV camper, that kind of thing. There isn't any camper or RV storage in May though. So nobody has doors that would be generally big enough to accommodate, say, something that's, 12 feet, 10 to 12 feet high, and 30 plus feet deep. So I've driven around the community. I've looked at all the campers and stuff that you see that people got parked in their driveways and stuff. So I do think that there would be a little bit of that as well. But like I said, its primary intent is commercial storage. It's also, price per square foot, the tenant is paying a little bit more for something like this, just given it's more expensive to build something like this in a traditional mini storage. They need to take into account the driveway, the additional height, the amenities, those kinds of things. So someone who's going to rent this is generally more of a commercial customer who can make the business case to pay a little bit more for their unit because it's helping facilitate the business. So that's probably a little more than you asked for.
You're aware there's a project already kind of underway up there for large storage?
Yeah, I think Nick and I talked about that. I think that's more like mini storage, to my knowledge. Units that aren't necessarily suited for commercial use. With the benefit of something like this is these have 14-foot high doors. Usually in 12 to 14-foot wide as well. So if you have a 10-foot wide unit, you're not going to be able to get a lot of the bigger equipment type stuff that we see a lot of people that end up storing in these things, if you can just get that in a traditional mini storage unit. So I think that's a little bit of the difference. Plus the electrical as well, like that's a huge plus for people to have the interior lights and be able to run a trickle charger or something if they need it. So that's a pretty big benefit for folks.
Isn't it a lot like,
I'm sorry?
isn't it a lot like theirs?
I mean, I think so. A few thoughts. I don't know that it was ever envisioned that this was gonna the industrial park was gonna become a large storage.
Because there's already other.
We're getting a lot of interest from people who are interested in buying up there for the purpose of building a shop or whatever it may be and running small businesses out there. Which is a little bit of a different model. And, but I think if it's sold, have you been advertising this development? already?
Yeah, I put a post, or I put a Facebook post up that said, like new commercial units coming soon. Just because what we do is, it's good to get a sense of who that customer may be, because as you kind of contemplate this development, you kind of tailor to what that need is. So I'll gather feedback from local people, like I said, a handful of businesses that have already expressed interest in getting something like this once it's available. So then it helps me better tailor like my recommendation for the development based on their needs. So if like, for example, in Wisconsin Rapids, by the time we're building those, I have a really good idea of exactly like who my tenants are and kind of what their needs are. So I don't necessarily build it, like to fit like each individual specific need, but I build it such that I have the right lengths in the door height to accommodate those businesses, basically.
It would be nice if the other one was done already, and we saw, oh, this is all full, they're all done. Then we definitely would need more. Or something like that.
From
I don't know.
I do think that's kind of targeting a different customer, like the mini storage versus this, like I think this is really tailored to a commercial user versus a residential user.
If we talk about phase two, phase one is very similar from my perspective. Phase two would require plumbing as well. And this area, we don't have infrastructure in there today for any of that. Period. So I
Yeah,
don't
and
know if
phase
that's
two isn't something that,
feasible,
For which options or?
just phase two, whatever, of any of the options. It doesn't have the infrastructure up there.
yeah, and like phase two isn't something that I'm interested in phase one. And then phase two is something that if the demand is there, then it's something that I'd be interested in pursuing, and if it's on this lot or different lot. Yeah, but it's hard to make that call and make that level of investment with all of the additional expense associated with utilities and water and all that stuff. Without having a good opportunity to vet it. So that's why we typically do these in those two phases, one being the cold storage, phase two being the water.
Well, all these options, none of them have that, like you're saying, infrastructure, but option 4 is getting that because
Because it's along that front.
along that frontage.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Cameron.
Cameron? So the way this is on the agenda is discussion regarding a proposed storage development in River Knoll Industrial Park. There's really no action that the planning commission can take tonight.
Right, yeah, I'm just looking for like general feedback, so that as I go and look at the lots and like level of interest and like that, but primarily like as I go to my site plan engineer and say, hey, I'm thinking of doing, 1 or 2 buildings based on our conversation. He can then go and put together a 2D rendering and just like say, hey, this lot looks like it has potential. Here's what the layout would look like, and then have another person does a 3D rendering, then I would come back and say, hey, this is a more solidified plan of what I have. So again, just preliminary conversation.
We can't take a vote. So, I mean, if you want an initial response, my thought is we have a project underway up there right now. What it was never the intent to have a bunch of storage units up there. But I can't indicate.
It's an industrial place.
It's an industrial park for industry, right?
Number
So,
one, our option one, here to start with. When, not 5, but the other that's right next to it.
Michael.
It took only 8 months because that was considered. wetland. And
Yeah.
so to me, he's as far as he could go
Without getting into the wetlands.
without getting the end of it already not happy. Did you have a preference on the option? Either one, 2 or 3?
Right, yeah, 1 or 2, I mean, I think,
Well, 4 is. Waiting for the relation table, 4 is off the table because one of the lots is gone in there.
No,
No, 5 is option 2 and 5 or 2 and 5. So 4, option 4 sits between.
is open yet.
the only issue with that is that it is a little bit on the smaller side. I can't remember the exact acreage of.
They're 1 acre each.
1 acreage, yeah. That does constrict us a little bit in size. I think we could definitely, again, I'd have to talk to my engineer and figure out. Taking into account the setbacks, driveways, things like that.
I just happened to have a look at the option two, last week, driving by and looking at that, that's a fairly nice piece of property.
Yeah, I thought that piece is nice, however. If I obviously want to be considerate of the village and how much land I'm acquiring, right? So if I don't think I'm gonna use all of it, I want to use what I'm gonna take what I'm gonna use, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So if I'm not gonna use the full 5 acres, and again, my engineer would have a better understanding of exactly how much, I almost wonder if we could parcel off just a portion of it that we would be interested in using and then have like a right of first refusal for the smaller piece, just a thought, but.
You had mentioned that, because of the equipment and so on, you have way oversized driveways compared to a typical storage unit. How big are these driveways and, are they asphalt, concrete, crushed rock? What do you use?
So, like, if you were to look at like a traditional mini storage facility, just for context, and it was one Green Industrial Park, like, if you look at the width in between those two buildings. I don't know, I haven't gone out there and measured that, assuming it's maybe 40, 45 feet or something like that. Just typical for some of our other mini storage developments, but with something like this, when you have someone that's, like I said, backing in that larger piece of equipment, we'll have to give them at least like 70 feet, so from the door to what would be the end of the driveway, right, would be about 70 or so. And then the end caps aren't quite 70, we give them enough of a turn radius such that they could turn around the buildings. A lot of the buildings you do are double sided. So you have a partition wall down the middle and then 40 pavements on each side. So the building would be approximately 80 feet wide by, I don't know the exact, 150 feet long, which would equate to that 12,000 mark.
And is that concrete, the driveway?
Oh, sorry, yeah, so, the building pad of concrete, the driveway, which I think is recycled asphalt.
Would be what?
Recycled asphalt.
Well, when you say big equipment, are you saying, backhoe trailer kind of thing, or a semi and a 60-foot trailer?
Yeah, we generally know semis, we, at least, we don't have any in our existing facilities or, semi type tenants. We do have one facility where we offer outdoor storage as well, and we got a couple guys park some semis out there, but, generally the backhoe type stuff, yeah. Bigger equipment, yeah, those loaders,
I guess if I were you, I'd maybe see if you can reach out to the people that are about to, or in process, just to see if you're looking at the exact same customers. Then
yeah, I've looked at their website and I don't, yeah, because these doors are, if you have a door that's a 10-foot high door. And
but you might want to reach out just in case.
Yeah.
You might be fighting over the same customers and that might not.
Yeah,
Benefit both of you guys.
yeah, and I will, I appreciate that. I don't think we are fighting over the same customers, and I have run some analysis in terms of available square footage per capita. Just because
Yeah.
we do that work whenever we develop in all of our developments, and there is a pretty low square footage per capita in Mayville. So even with those numbers, I feel pretty comfortable. Plus we've done a lot of developments this past.
Well, I would look closely at option one, because I don't think I agree with industrial thing.
Option one.
Yeah.
And you're out of Jackson?
What's that?
You're out of Jackson, you said?
Yeah, I live in Jackson.
Well, that other storage unit that fell through, wasn't that from Jackson too? Like over by Old Shopko?
Yeah.
You're not affiliated with that, right?
No,
Okay.
No, I think that was,
Okay.
I'm trying to remember.
I can't remember, but I thought they were like out of Jackson, it was gonna be a storage.
They
and
still own the
parking.
property, but they haven't developed.
Okay.
All right.
Checking.
Thanks for coming in.
yeah, well, thank you, I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, 7 is tabled. Item 8, discussion regarding a potential residential development located on the south 5 acres of 305 South Park Street, parcel 251, 1216, 2323-12. Oh, this is kind of separate. So here, John.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, Corey gave me some different handouts today, so that's what you got. You know, separate
You have
prints.
an extra one of these?
I do.
Everybody else get one?
No, there's an extra packet right here.
Okay, got it. There we go. Hey, Gordon. Hey. All right.
Corey Fraser, back again, this month. So Tom and I were able to analyze, the project on Clark Street, take a look at some other options of how that road could potentially be built, based on some of the feedback we got during the last meeting. And unfortunately, I think just due to the size of the development, only being 14 lots, it's very hard to come up with a means to, you know, build the road through some sort of traditional TIF financing. Being residential lots of pay-go TIF doesn't work. And due to some of the recent tax changes, any sort of reimbursement, from the city to build those improvements would be taxed for the year the incentives received, which would likely wipe out any sort of margin that is in the project to begin with. So we did, you know, finally get some of that information together. There's another option there that's more of a private public partnership, something that would be a little more involved in terms of administration time from the city and from our side. We would be open to that. Then another option would be if the city just build it as a road itself. I know there's some initial comments from Ailers about that in terms of a guarantee. It's something we wouldn't be necessarily real keen on, but certainly would have a discussion about. The other option that I think we've been talked about over the course of some of these meetings was just to divide that into 4 lots and possibly zone it either, you know, 2-family or do just a single family, in which case you could have a really big backyard and some sort of larger accessory building. So we would be interested in pursuing that if, you know, commission doesn't see a path forward. And I know we just got some of this information, so I really just wanted to kind of introduce it and thought we could probably follow up with a call for Ailers at some point to give it the details if that's something we still wanted to pursue.
When you say the 4, it would be like 4 from Clark Street back to the woods before where narrow that deep lots.
Yeah, so you know, the minimum for a single family is 100 feet wide, so this is about 400 and like 60 feet from the north to south, so it really just be kind of carving them up with 4 equal distance. Certainly not the density I think we're all hoping to achieve there, but would be a project that wouldn't require any sort of assistance or, you know, financial contribution from the city. So, you know, I was able to discuss this item on the Elm Street, which is next on the agenda. So I really just wanted to kind of go over it at a high level, see if anyone had any initial thoughts. We can certainly circle back at the next meeting in terms of any action or any specific requests. If anyone has any questions, certainly. Present them.
Any questions? There's no questions. We can move on to item 9. Okay. We got another color package.
Yeah.
Item 9, discuss the possible action regarding proposed alternate to potential residential development located along the Leona Street right away.
Corey Creaser again, I think the origin of this one really just stems from some of the research that was done to on the process to actually vacate Leona Street. And what that would entail from, you know, both the city and developer side and the time period in which that would be done. So the suggestion was, is there an alternate way to access these properties that would not require vacating the street? What we submitted were just some high level, potential easement area. The intention would be that, you know, we would do a final survey that would show these and, you know, work with the attorney to draft the appropriate easement language, but it would allow for the construction of a 10 or 12-foot wide driveway into each of the properties. It's something that the entertainment adults will look to go through the process to shift that boundary line between the properties a little bit to the north, kind of centered right down Valley Street. And that would minimize the amount of access easement required to get into the middle lot or the south lot that's shown on the street. You can see in some of the sketches, we did, you know, make some consideration for where snow may be, you know, kind of stockpiled in the winter months, some areas for the city to push the snow off Valley Street before they get to the private driveways, which would be plowed by the individual owners. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We have had some interest from some folks in terms of wanting to build either some duplexes or some single family houses here. So probably agnostic as to how we get access in here. Sooner would be better, but you know, we follow what Plan Commission believes in terms of what they want to do.
You want to speak?
Yeah, I like, there's some things I want to say. At the last meeting, it was discussed to vacate the street, and you'd be following chapter 66, which there's a process to correctly vacate a street, and part of that vacation would come to my property and my neighbor across the street, and also to Mr. Freezer. You get a portion. That would leave a small section, which is probably 33 by 40 feet. I do have some measurements, and that would, that should stay open for the purpose. That is how people turn around in there. That's how they back up the garbage truck and come back around. That's always been that way for 20 years that we've lived there. And I don't feel that they need to put a driveway down the center of that. That would affect parking on both sides. And not only that, but there seems to be a disconnect with coming off that street, what lane of traffic you're going to be in. That could be a potential traffic hazard with other vehicles, kids on bikes, whatever it may be. Now, what I just heard was that there may be an alternative way not to vacate the street, to do it a different way, that the city would not vacate, so we would not gain anything from this at all. It would still be city property, my understanding. And I don't quite understand how you can allow a private citizen to develop a driveway on city property. Now, when this originally was discussed of vacating, we're fine with that. We're fine with the development. Build whatever the hell he wants to. Fine with that, but it should not impact in a negative way to the people who live down there. And the reason why we talked about that at that time was that it does impact people in certain ways, but we'll get used to it. But when you vacate the street, we were going to gain some space. My neighbor, he was just here. He left pretty upset about this because he heard maybe another way. And it's kind of, I guess I don't quite understand, how does another way come and play before a meeting and it's not even on the agenda? So I just don't know how this stuff kind of happens. I'm opposed to a driveway coming down that little sliver, because let's say I want to back at my trailer, and the people that own this driveway, they come over and say, hey, you cracked my driveway, you have to fix it. Doesn't seem right to me that that's city property and they have a driveway on it. So I'm totally opposed to that. He can develop this, he just gained 33 feet. And he can easily have the two driveways at that border, and they could spear off to the property without any impact whatsoever. He does not need to bring that down to Valley Street and to create a parking problem, which it could be. Not only that, but we create a parking problem directly in front of my house and also in front of my neighbor's house. I just don't think it's just the correct way to look at this. That should stay the way it is. And that way there is a turnaround atmosphere with that people have used for years and years and years. And you say, well, what kind of traffic can you have? Well, just sit up there once. People come down that street to visit people. And if they're parked on the south side, they go up, they turn around and they head west. And that's just been a norm for that for years and years and years. The garbage trucks, all the delivery trucks, they constantly turn around in there. That should not be taken away to accommodate two 12-foot cement driveways for people that are going to live up into the hill, or whatever it may be. That would impose a restriction on us. And also on people that use this area. It's fine if he wants to spear off at that line where the vacation of the street was. He could do that quite easily without affecting anything. So I'm opposed to this, and so is my neighbor. And also I'm opposed to trying to bypass vacating a street according to the statute. I think that should be followed. That would be clean. It would offer the 33 feet that you said, the board said I was getting at the last meeting. We said, okay, that works. Now, if we do it another way, if you don't vacate the street, guess what? I don't get the 33 feet. What do I get? And what can I do? I keep up mowing the yard as I've been doing for 20 years. That's not right. Vacate the street and do it correctly. And if it takes a little more time, if it takes a little more time, that's the way government's supposed to work. Not shortcut it and then really put that on the back of the people that live down there. So I am totally opposed to that. And I did do a sheet I can give you. Sometimes these things are kind of hard to figure out, but we're looking at this section right here. Okay, and this would be what he would have. And you can spear off, that would still leave this available for people to turn around. Not the best way around this slope. And I'm talking about that little box, this is vacated, where they own the street. That's the one that I feel should stay open. That could be easily gravelled, there's a little bit of grass in there. That could be easily gravelled for people to continue using that along with the people that live there. Up in there, now we're talking potential 4 new homes, 4 new living homes up there. To think about how that's going to congestion the traffic or change the traffic pattern down there. And whose driveway they're gonna start using, my neighbors, mine, or whoever, it's just not right. This should stay open for people to have access to turn around. And Mr. Creaser can easily spear off on that lot line that he's gonna have to gain 33 feet. And then, of course, I'm totally opposed to shortcutting, not vacating the street, but what I understand just isn't right. Follow the statute, follow what you should be doing, not shortcutting, so it's fair to everybody. Any questions? I can.
Any questions?
I would assume that, if the street's vacated, that would be considered an extension Valley Street up to the blacktop. Up to the, where it says 39 feet, up to there, that would be an extension to Valley Street. The other situation is allowing access to my side yard and access to my neighbor's side yard, which should not be driving over the top of somebody else's driveway. Shouldn't be, it don't pass the smell test, it just don't work that way. If it was absolutely necessary, maybe, but it's not. They have plenty of space, they gain 33 feet, the street should be vacated according to this chapter 66. And not shortchanged, because if it's done the other way, what do I gain? What do I own? The city owns, they still have the right of way and own all that. What does that do for my neighbor that parks his stuff there? Or me that I want to park stuff there? It doesn't do anything for us. So it shouldn't be shortcutted. It should be completed according to the statute, vacated, and everybody's happy, and I'm requesting that not be driveway access allowed on there.
I could just make a couple points in response to that. You know, if the city doesn't want any sort of improvements on that area, we'd be fine with that. I guess we're just seeking permission to use that space before we did. So, you know, if it's deemed a public space and anyone can do what they want with it, I guess then we probably don't need to have this conversation, but we were looking for something, you know, substantial that could be recorded that would allow access to the other side of the street. So, you know, it's a little strange, I think, to have just a street end and then it's gravel, and then some roadway, or private drive. I think we could work with that. We're not seeking to take any of that land. We're just looking to have some access over it. And the driveway would, you know, be like 10 feet, like I said, so possibly half of that area that he described, not all 39 feet of it, so.
Looking at this diagram here, so I'm taking it from the vertical green and yellow, that's the lot line, or the edge of the right of way.
The edge of the right of way, correct?
To the red and black line that,
The other edge.
yeah. So, I mean, theoretically, you could go extend Valley Street up the way that area, that's the right of way, right?
Yeah.
And we wouldn't be vacating anything, it's the city property, it's designated for a street, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's designated for a street, the street doesn't exist there, so.
Yeah,
I think
Yeah, but we
how does everyone feel about it?
recreate it, or, yeah, create a street, it's just that it'd be Valley Street, and it'd be whatever it is, 33 feet long, right?
But, I mean, we would not be opposed to that. I mean, I guess who would be extending the street, or would it just be there in boundary only?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then running the driveway off of that.
I think that's certainly workable.
I don't know, they drew a street, they named the street, why didn't they actually build the street?
Yeah.
They drew it and built it. I know there's a few places like that around town, there's a couple of streets that.
And if you look in the other packet there, there's a procedures list listed for laying out for how DOA recommends for vacating the right of way. And that involves courts, public notifications, and several hearings, so it's gonna be months.
Yeah.
Before the right of way would be vacated. So we're probably looking maybe the end of the year.
And what would it cost to build the street?
It all depends on what you build.
Like the whole street that's laid out, that showed on.
I would have to put some costs together for that.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Well,
Because It was mapped out.
$100,000, but,
Why wasn't it done in the first?
yeah. That's not feasible at this point, so, especially when we're in. Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess, I mean, I don't know, we would, like I said, we're agnostic and see what's big in the street, we'll go along with the proper process. If we want to modify these easements, and just kind of take them straight across. I would say, looking at this, again, it would be beneficial to have that be from potentially the center line of Leona Street to the east. Just to give a little flexibility to some of the grades there.
Yeah. What do you talk about?
Just have the easement be.
So this would stay as is,
Yeah.
and you would go through the process, the correct process.
Well, I mean, I don't know that there's an incorrect, I think both processes are correct. Would be one.
Well, one process, would then put that on my deed, that section, that 33 feet. The other process keeps it under the city, if I understand that right. That's not, my understanding, the correct process, because you are vacating the street. You definitely are vacating the street because you're allowing him to build on that area.
We would
You're not
have,
allowing me anything.
we would have no permanent improvements in any extent we'd be granted. We would expect that they would be subject to be removed if the city were.
So you should agree that it should be done the correct process.
I don't know that that's the correct process. I think we're talking about what is maybe the most expeditious and what is maybe the least burdensome for the city. So I
But
get
you
that.
gain and we don't gain. That's, I don't understand.
We're just getting access. We're not taking possession of any land. I understand that you want this land, but there's a thought for both the developer and the city to vacate the street and give the land away. And
But you
that's
are,
not my
you
point.
are gaining 66 feet of driveway. If you start the driveway where Valley Street is, the end of Valley Street is paved at this
The
time.
city still owns it. They were.
This city owns it, but you started the driveway.
He doesn't own it.
He doesn't,
No.
I mean, 10 years from now, they decided to pave this whole thing, they pave right over as part of the driveway. So
That's right.
We're just asking permission.
When the street goes through eventually.
the street would go through,
Right away to go on,
it goes right over the streets.
the street is as plotted.
So we're better off
So-
doing it this way than.
So you're saying that we would not have those through that 33 feet. I would not own that 33 feet.
If the street ever goes through, no.
So last meeting, whatever you decide to vacate, doesn't matter at this meeting.
Evidently, yeah.
Why weren't we informed of that? Corey was informed of it, but we were not informed of that. And you all voted on that last time and asked if we were in agreement of the vacating. But we were shocked when Corey told us all.
Well, they'll be notified when it goes to the zone.
They were.
It goes to zoning or something.
It was contentious when we met last time.
It wasn't contentious on our part.
Well, no. What I'm saying is the solution was to do the vacation. Vacate that, and that's how the agreement was formed.
Right.
And that's why, and I think that agreement helped cement the deal that the planning commission was willing to support and vote for.
What changed?
I don't know if anything has changed. The question is, of the planning commission, do you want to propose something else?
So you're telling me that we're not gonna gain the 33 feet?
Depends on how we vote.
Well,
But I'm just saying, but he'll gain the 33 feet?
no.
So you're gonna have to go back.
This is the right of way, so you're just asking for permission to use public right of way.
Which is the 66 feet.
He's just gonna have a longer driveway in the
Longer
public
driveway.
right of way. Just like your driveway is probably what, 15, 20 feet in public right of way.
So his would be 66 feet in public driveway.
Correct.
So if in the future, someone damages that 66 feet of their driveway, it's not gonna be anyone's fault.
You know, there's language in every easement that will get worked out with city attorney and our attorney, and I imagine we'll have no recourse for anything that happens, and because it's not our property. So,
But what if we damage something on that private driveway? That is city.
I was gonna say, depends if you do it on purpose or not.
Would I?
Pretty good
do anything on purpose?
Talking about something that virtually no possibility of happening.
And virtually, probably Leona Street will never be built,
Correct.
not in my lifetime.
Well, it's probably not mine either, but that's.
So if I understand this right, we went from following the chapter to vacate the street correctly, where we would gain 33 feet. He would gain 33 feet. And my neighbor gains 33 feet. Now we're back to, we don't gain anything. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And that's, you think that's fair?
If it was voted in that manner. I mean, what I would say is, I think an item that you mentioned that is compelling to me is from reading the agenda itself, it is difficult to assess what was intended for this portion of the meeting. What might make sense is to have the engineer work closely with Corey and put more of the details together and come up with a fixed solution for consideration. And hopefully during that process, you can get together and find something that you can work with. Otherwise, I think the decision right now was made last month, and the planning commission supported the vacation of that street.
We understood.
We understand that.
Yeah.
But we want you to go through the correct procedure, not shortcut it.
I agree. I
That's all I'm asking.
I agree with that.
That way, it's done correctly, there's no questions, we gain 33 feet, he gains, and we can deal with this other issue next meeting.
I mean, I would just add that, and I don't know the specifics of what was voted last time, but I think it was to explore or proceed with that process. I know that process had several different steps of approval to get through. It required all the landowners' approval. So it's not that because they voted on it, it was to happen. There was certainly other places where if you wouldn't sign it, or if I wouldn't sign it, it wouldn't get vacated. So it's not that that was the foregone conclusion. It was.
So the conclusion was, we would follow chapter 66 and vacate the street correctly. There's nothing unusual about that. That's what happens when you vacate a street. I'm not trying to be unfair or anything about that. That's just the right process. Not shortcut it, just follow the process. Why are we going to be against that?
Well, we agreed last time, I think that the process came at probably our expense, so if there's something that is simpler and more expeditious, that also involves the up in the city, I think that was the conversation that was boring.
But it benefits you and it don't benefit us. Why is that fair for my neighbor?
It's a public right of way, I mean, we could just drive across it and park an RV on it apparently, or do whatever we want to do to it, and not seek permission, we're trying to follow the rules and seek permission, so.
I'm asking that the board say yes to follow the correct procedure to vacate the property, so we gain the 33 feet and he gains the 33 feet, so.
It's your opinion, Bill, that that's the proper way.
I just asked. I don't agree. I expected that.
That's, you know, it can be done another way.
You think over the next month, you might be able to find a solution with Mr. Greaser that you would be able to agree with? If we have the engineer work with you and explore options? What is changed? I think what's changed is,
To use the property with an easement as compared to ownership.
And then this way, say, keeps it open, that if somebody ever does want to make the street, then they can.
and
If you give it up, then you can't put the street ever in,
Exactly.
just in case, you never know.
It once it's private, that he owns it. Yeah, so. possibility of running the street through, which odds are it won't happen anyhow.
Yeah.
But I would go, the option is still there.
Just so I understand. If we talk long enough, and just so I understand that there's gonna be some process to shortcut this process for him, and that will save him some expense. I understand that. Instead of following the statutory process, there are some steps, but it's the correct way of doing it, and that would award property to us, award property to him, award property to my neighbor, as what was stated at the last meeting. When we left, that's exactly the way it was gonna be. The only thing we're talking about today was this little box that gave you a printout and asking that not become a driveway, that just continue to be allowed for people to have a way to get around in there. But now it's turned out to be, if I understand this right, he can build on that city right away anywhere he wants. There's no longer divided in the middle because nobody owns anything but the city, and you can say, go ahead, you can build 10 feet off the lot line next to my house if you want. Am I wrong by that?
Yes.
Okay.
Accurate.
So how do I end up with, how do you end up to build on city property?
We did.
And I-
We did.
City property. Oh,
I mean, what, if we were given this last month, I'd vote for this, just because then it keeps the road open.
Driveway.
But we weren't given this last month.
The driveway.
Yeah,
I mean, we don't ask for an easement at all, we just bring in a site plan approval for the site across on the east side in tandem traveling across the unbuilt section of Leona Street. I mean, that seems like that would be acceptable. Is that not the case?
something's wrong with this process.
I do want to just go back to the minutes, because I think there was a question about what the motion actually was.
Okay, good, please.
The motion was made by Fleischer, second by Colomer, to vacate the Leona Street right away from the south line of lot 12 to the north end of Leona Street right away, with the cost of resurveying the lots to be paid by the developer. Motion carried on a voice vote 6-0. That's what was passed.
Okay. So, in that case. Which one?
Pretty well covered. Pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, we can't go back.
So at this point, I think that ruling stands, cut and dry.
We have to. Yeah, had we had, then, if we had had this option. Would have been different.
Yeah.
We didn't have that option at the last meeting.
Like I said, we're
So
agnostic
it's approved,
to this,
Cory.
yeah.
So we can't go anywhere other than vacation of, vacate the street and go the way we said.
Thank you.
Yes,
That's the
thank
correct
you
way.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for checking into that.
You're welcome. Here, make a motion to adjourn
Also move.
by Colomer.
There's the mistake.
Second.
Thank you very much.
Second by Springs. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Have a good evening.
Hey, John, are we able just to chit chat about that or?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, right now. That was entertaining, not as good as